Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Blaster Boy, and welcome to the Collegiate Star League. This is the ULoL Campus Series round of 4, and tonight we are going to be taking a look at the match between UC Irvine and Simon Fraser. Once again, my name is Blaster Boy. I am here all alone tonight, so I will be handling pretty much all of your coverage here, aside from what the teams will be providing, of course. But we are into picks and bans for game number 1 in this best of 3 series already, so let's not waste any more time. We've already flown through 4 of the bans. All of these are pretty much standard, nothing too unexpected here. And I mean, really, if you watch any or very much professional play, really any at all of these champions will make a ton of sense to you. The Irvine, maybe a little bit of an oddity nowadays, as he's kind of fallen out of favor a bit for the Rengar, Kazakhs, and the Graves. And it seems like we might have an issue here with UCI maybe not getting their last ban in. Not entirely sure what is up with that. We should figure that out in a second, though. But let's assume that they will just carry on with these picks and bans for now, as we do see Graves taken off the table. So Rengar, Kazakhs still up in the jungle. Nidalee is still open, I suppose. It's not really a very popular option right now. But before we get too far into these picks and bans, I do want to give you guys some information. Both of these teams are currently undefeated in the, obviously in the brackets. They were both undefeated in the regular season, and they have 2-0'd every single game they've played through the regular season and all the way through the brackets. UCI is number 2 rather, and Simon Fraser is number 3. Seeded wise, so this is set to be a pretty action-packed match. We're nearing the end of the brackets here, as we do have coverage over on our Twitter right now of, I believe, the other semi-final match. But we are going to be focusing on this one right now. Picks coming through real fast and furious here. We've got Rumble locked into the top lane for Tower of God on the side of UCI. And that is a pretty standard pick now, becoming more and more common as time is going on, as the meta is starting to finally shift quite a bit more, and we're seeing Rumble, we're seeing Renekton, and we're actually seeing Renekton specifically into Rumble, if I'm recalling correctly here. So picking this Rumble away with that Renekton still open could be a bit of a risk, but we will see. On the opposite side, Simon Fraser, Orianna, Ezreal, both two very safe and very consistent picks over the years, and 2 very good picks for both of their players here as well. The top 2 played, in fact, in either of these roles. So, very, very comfortable picks for both Demnus and Pneumatic, respectively. Moving back over to the side of UC Irvine, though, we've got Kazakhs and Karma locked in. So, jungler is secured for them, and the jungler is actually going to be left completely hidden here from Simon Fraser. They want to bide their time and wait this whole thing out right now. Very interesting decision, honestly. I mean, they can pretty safely pick a top laner here. The Nautilus, I feel, can kind of struggle versus the Rumble in the lane, but with proper jungle attention, that probably won't be that big of a deal. And actually completely slipped past me somehow. I looked right at it multiple times. Rengar was taken off the table, actually, as a ban, with Kazakhs picked up now, so they're going to have to try, Frozen Knight is going to have to try to dip back into his champion pool, maybe a little bit here, but Lee Sin is still open, Hecarim's still open. Both of those have been pretty common in the UL Campus Series, Lee Sin, Rek'Sai as well. Like, there's a whole list of other options outside of these really, really popular ones right now, so this will be very interesting to see. But Caitlyn Ahri locked in. So we've got a Caitlyn Karma duo locked in versus the Ezreal Nami. Will be pretty interesting to see how that works out. There was a Nami. I cannot recall for whatever reason if JJ was the one that played it in the game that I casted last week. But there was a Nami in here in the UL Campus Series that had an incredible performance, a lane-winning performance, along with this Ezreal. 2 games in a row, versus, specifically one of them at least, was a lane that they really should not have won quite so easily. But it'll be interesting to see if that same strategy is pulled out here. But compositions now locked in. Strong tank lines on the side of Simon Fraser. They have got Nautilus and Vi to provide that front line, to provide that ball delivery service, with Nami to facilitate or also peel as well. Orion and Ezreal, the two main focuses, the core of that team. On the opposite side, University of California, Irvine. We've got Rumble in the top lane dealing a lot of damage. Kha'Zix, Ahri, Caitlyn all dealing a lot of damage. Karma even brings a decent amount as well. So this is just an all-out aggression comp, pick-based composition with some team fighting sprinkled in the Rumble as well. And of course, Caitlyn, no pushover in skirmishes and team fights either, but a very single target focused team until you get up into that top lane for the side of UCI. A very interesting composition here. I'm really excited to see how this game plays out, because there are opportunities for incredibly explosive plays here. So I don't know about you guys, but I am really, really looking forward to this game. But before we get too much further into this match, there are some announcements that I would like to make before we load on to the Rift and get into the action of this first game. So, firstly, the Collegiate Star League, we are looking for a social media manager. So if you feel like you are qualified to run the social media for the Collegiate Star League, go ahead, send me your resume, go to cstarleague.com for more information on that job opportunity. You can get your foot in the door with esports and get a very solid start in the industry thanks to the Collegiate Star League. So go ahead and check that out. As well, we have the Midwest Campus Clash coming up on April 8th at Columbia College in Missouri. The teams are competing for $25,000. The qualifiers are currently underway, so keep an eye out for that. We will throw up an ad for that in just a moment here. In addition, I do want to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Of course, we have Twitch, the service that you are watching on. They have been incredibly supportive of the Collegiate Star League here over the years, so we have to extend a huge thank you to them for continuing to host us and being the very platform that you are now watching us on at the moment. I also would like to thank Band Gaming, which is the primary social app. It is a social app and the primary social app of the CSL. It has many features such as creating groups, boards, calendar functions, polls, chat, and call functionality. It is a premier social experience for you and fellow gamers alike. Go ahead and find out more at band.us and also find them on the Google Play and Apple App Store. You can join the Collegiate Star League community at band.us/@CStarLeague, and you can come hang out with us there. As well, last but not least, I do want to thank Asus and welcome them back to the CSL family for the 2016 and 2017 season. They are the providers of everything esports, from monitors, laptops, routers, graphics cards, motherboards, and more. Do not enter your next battle unless you're equipped with Asus. We will have to go to a very short break, guys, and we will be right back when we do load onto the Rift for game number 1 here of UCI versus Simon Fraser. Don't go anywhere. Oh gosh.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Collegiate Star League. This is ULoL Campus Series, round of 4. We are very near to the end of this Collegiate Star League season. We're nearing the end of the playoffs here. And this is set to be an action-packed match as we already have some supportal combat taking place down bottom. The ADC's facing off as well, though not trading nearly as much damage. And I do want to take a moment to introduce all of these players since we didn't really get to go over the names too much in Champ Select. So, on the blue side, we do have University of California, Irvine, or UCI, as I will be referring to them throughout this cast. We have Tower of God in the top lane, Locktran in the jungle, Desecration at mid, Frostalicious at ADC, and, oh man, Tianla Temp Name at support. And then on the red side, we have Simon Fraser University. Oh, we might have an invade here, actually. Didn't think this would result in too much, but I mean, Rumble Kazakh's very formidable opponents bring a lot of damage here. Demnis has to roam over, but taking harass in the mid lane. Hop over to those introductions real quick before too much else happens. On the red side, we have Simon Fraser University, Goldjet in the top lane, Frozen Knight at jungle, Demnis, mid lane, Pneumatic at ADC, and JL at support, who is taking a huge amount of damage at the moment. He has to be very careful here. And it doesn't seem that Simon Fraser were quite able to get their ideal start in this lane here that they did have twice in their previous series. So, Demnis taking a bit of a trade mid. Now, that jungle invade from earlier on did not really result in anything. Both of these junglers are pretty much perfectly even now, except, and I mean, Locktran even comes out with a good bit of health, so nothing really too crazy resulting from that. Frozen Knight should have a bit of a lead, though, as this clear continues on, as the Raptors were picked up. But with that CS deficit in the top lane, it actually makes me wonder about whether Tower of God got them, and it looks like he may have. It looks like he at least got the big one, because he is an entire level ahead of his opponent at 3 minutes, and that is not something that you see in lanes very often. Frozen Knight taking a ton of damage. The blast cone was popped. I don't even think Frozen Knight stopped to hit that. That was popped by Tianla. That's a very interesting decision. That seemed like that was the case. I completely lost track of exactly what happened there, of who fired that auto, but did not look like Frozen Knight auto to me. So incredibly questionable decision there from Tianla. Cost a kill potentially, or cost at least the exponential of a flash. They could have at least burned the flash from Frozen Knight on that invade, but just not quite working out for them. Regardless, this jungle will kind of reset now, and Frozen Knight now stepping back into the jungle, disappearing into the shadows once more. They don't exactly know where he's going to be now, because he could technically go anywhere. He could be mid, but they don't really know. They're feeling very confident, as you can see Desecration playing incredibly far up in the mid lane with that CS lead, keeping Demnis contained as best he can, taking that Ignite into the heal, actually. Exhaust nerfed this patch, so not too surprising to see that fall out of favor a decent bit. It's not unexpected to have that in the support role, I feel. I don't think it's going to fall completely out of favor there. Ignite can certainly find success in the support role, 100%. However, I don't think we'll be seeing Exhaust spread around the map quite as much anymore. It's kind of a teleport situation, honestly, but it didn't last nearly as long this time. Tianla is aggressing very heavily in the bottom lane, but now UCI, they might be in dire straits here. This is a fight that Simon Fraser should not be taking. This should tip them off. Yeah, there's a perfect prediction trap from Frostalicious. They had no vision there, but they knew exactly where Frozen Knight was going to be due to that aggression. And that was just pulling the trigger a little bit too early. Granted, there were a lot of summoners burned, 2 on each side. And Frozen Knight doesn't even have to burn anything, in fact. So, a really even trade there. And I don't think it necessarily should have been an even trade. UCI should have been on the ropes there. They should have been backing up into a trap. But, again, I feel like the trap was sprung just a little bit too early, really, for for Simon Fraser to really be able to punish. Now, taking a breath, let's step back a little bit from each of these individual lanes and looking overall. We have a CS lead in the top lane still. We still have a CS lead in the mid lane. Bot lane is dead even though this Caitlyn Karma has been pushing up incredibly aggressively the entire time. So this is some real good. This is exactly what I wanted to see from Simon Fraser from when I casted them last weekend. When I casted their match last weekend, they played this Ezreal Nami 2 games in a row. They 2-0 their opponent. They 2-0 their opponent, and what they did in the bottom lane each game was they sat in the forward brush opposite from their side, and they pulled the wave and just instantly started pushing it. They got wave control off that. They then got an experience and a slight gold lead, and they were able to turn that into lane control to push that throughout the game, and then eventually into kills, and then they would come out incredibly far ahead. That was what Simon Fraser did 2 games in a row down bottom last week. And I wanted to see, I closed the cast saying I wanted to see what they would do when they're not allowed to do that. And so far, UCI, very, very proactive. They've got good warding, they're winning, they're controlling their bot in mid lane waves very well, even though the CS is even. And they're able to turn that into an objective. This is something that Simon Fraser needs to be facing. This is the type of team they need to face off against, because they showed very little last week, ultimately, and I wanted to see some of their weaknesses maybe exposed here, and I'm hoping that, for the sake of building story, at least, that UCI can challenge them quite a lot more than we would get to see last time. So far, so good. Infernal Drake picked up already for UCI. That next dragon will be up, I think it would be around the 13 or so minute mark. We will have to see the exact timing on that. Should be pretty darn close to that, though. That is a pretty good dragon to pick up early. It's not quite the best. Ocean Drake would be the best, but an Infernal Drake is just the best to have in general. When you're thinking about the game as a whole, the Infernal Drake is just the best one to have. It's the most useful, the broadest set of situations, and it's just always going to be good, basically. You're always going to be wanting to do more damage. You're always going to want more damage for less gold, or having more damage when you're even with your opponent in gold. It is an ideal situation. That's great. But we might have a bit of a fight here in the mid lane. That's a gank onto Demnus. Burns his flash and heal immediately, though, for the ult trade as well. So all in all, incredibly effective from UCI, but fantastic reactions from Demnus. Not losing a thing for that except for his summoners. Now, all you have to do in that lane is you just play back a little bit more. Now that you're significantly less safe, you can still trade with this Ahri pretty comfortably. He's not behind in gold yet. He's keeping up in CS, now even able to shove that wave in. And Simon Fraser's going to look for vision control around the lane now that it's so free. But the kill potential is much more significant for Desecration, since he will be even in items, but also has that ignite to boot, also has that flash as well. His ult is on a slightly longer cooldown, it actually looks like, than the shockwave is. So he'll have to play around that ult timing maybe a little bit more carefully. But overall, I feel like Desecration is going to be incredibly comfortable there. Even though, again, Demnus, fantastic reaction time. And, I mean, it's very easy to panic and screw up one of your summoners, hold them for too long by getting greedy. There's a million ways that could go significantly worse, but he took hardly any damage. And, yeah, sticks it through, but changing perspective here a little bit. We got some Magic Pen picked up by Tower of God. We have some Magic Pen here picked up for Tower of God on this Rumble, so he's going to be shredding right through a good chunk of that Spectral Cow, or Spectre's Cow, rather. So, incredibly smart buy from him. I mean, it's pretty standard to see not only Magic Pen, but specifically the Haunting Guise on Rumble. It's not really anything groundbreaking or out of the ordinary. It's just solid you could go other directions if you really wanted to, but not really the most effective. His gold right now looking really good, 200 gold lead in his lane. Definitely, again, not anything super like earth-shattering or anything like that. He's not going to get any items off that, just a handful of potions, maybe a ward to boot, but it puts him pretty comfortably ahead. He can grow that further because it's not really closing up too much. I mean, now it's just under 100, but the CS is incredibly close to even. I don't know if it'll really exactly even up at any point, as long as his lane is going on at the very least. But a couple CS here and there, not going to break the bank either way. Neither of these top laners are really going to be hurting or helping themselves to new opportunities or missing out on anything huge. Oh, actually, Desecration gonna have to hold that thought on the top lane. Bursted nearly to death, incredibly close. Locktran down bottom, that seems to be a bit more exciting to the directed camera. He is taken, whoa, Frozen Knight coming out of nowhere. He looked like he just wanted to recall. Now he stepped on a trap on the way out, locked up on the Karma Q, the Inner Flame. Equalizer comes down, and that will shred the backline of Simon Fraser, force them to back off. Goldjet hooking back in, though. That's a huge 4-man knockup. JJ gets the first kill. Demna's roaming down, no shockwave. You gotta remember, he just burned it. No mana either. No health left in the tank. Frostalicious trying to fight this out. I don't know if he'll be able to. Mechanical misplay there. Cancels the auto, misses the Mystic Shot. Costs him his life. UCI trading 3 for 3 in the end. Desecration never left his lane, or Desecration never roamed down, rather. Oh man, what an explosive fight. Came out of nowhere. Frozen Knight just called that shot like that. Recalling in the bush, immediately pulls the trigger as soon as Tanala walks up. Now Frozen Knight taking way more damage than he bargained for here. Ignited has to limp away. We'll be able to get out to safety, however, and 3 for 3 on the board. 500 gold in the lead for UCI, though, as they do get more assists, I believe. No, they're actually just pulling that off from their CS leads in the lane. That's a 15 CS lead in the mid lane, and the kills, very, very, very importantly for UCI, went on to this Caitlyn. Ezreal already puts himself in a 700 gold hole with that tier itemization, and that is pivotal to him being a viable champion currently. Really, I say currently, anytime in the past like 3 years has been the build for Ezreal. Since you put yourself in that hole, he has a bit of a power trough. Now, that is already coming past, but the Caitlyn having a gold lead results in her having way more damage. 600 gold in the lead right now, plus the 700 that Ezreal already puts himself in. Locktran, though, maybe in a hole here, but it is going to be a very nice grave dug into the ground. Demna's shredded by that equalizer. Frozen Knight scared of walking across, and rightly so. As soon as he takes the opportunity, he is taken right off of that red carpet. And that's a great roam from Tower of God. Great equalizer as well. Frostalicious bubbled up under turret. Desecration is the target of aggression in the mid. Going to back off, though. Spirit Rush out. Pretty clean there in the end. 1 for 1 on the trade. Locktran and Frozen Knight trading their lives for each other. But that is, again, that is on aggression from Simon Fraser. They're trading evenly once again. So they've got to be very careful of that, because now they put themselves in a bit of a hole, and again, you have to keep an eye on where that money is going. Now the Rumble has a kill. Now it's just kind of evening him up with the Nautilus, but he's going to be able to continue to build a CS lead as long as this lane is going on, and Rumble is going to deal a lot of damage very, very soon. Leandry's already completed. We saw how the damage ticked on Frozen Knight when he decided to take a few steps down that red carpet before, during that invade. Something I realized I failed to mention now is the Ocean Drake was picked up for UCI a few minutes ago now, so the next one will be up fairly soon if we hop over to another Ocean Drake, as we can very plainly see. taking another bit of a breather, looking at the global gold totals for these teams. We have a little bit over 1K in the bank as an advantage for UCI right now, and a lot of that is honestly off of their first turret gold. That is a very large chunk of change to be picking up. First brick, very valuable. Not quite as valuable as it used to be. They took 100 gold off the top of that bonus. So it is not like super game changing anymore for just one person to get it. It's still very significant, but 100 less gold is a very large chunk of that. It's not like it was 1,000 or 2,000 gold where taking off 100 is insignificant. No, it was in total 400 bonus. Now it's only 300 bonus. It's a whole kill bonus still, which is significant. Don't get me wrong, but not nearly as good. And I don't even think that was really even just all thrown onto one person. So if that's not even the case either, then I mean nobody really reaping the major benefits just for themselves. No individual on the side of UCI. Although Frostalicious has 2 kills and 900k even over his laning opponent. Now the mid turret falls for UCI, and they're very proactive. And they realize what one of the strengths of their comp is, and that is going to be sieging. Now, they're not very good at sieging. I don't want to say that they're very good at sieging when there's members there, but when you move proactively around the map like that, and you make the calls first, you are putting yourself in a situation where you can very quickly deal with a turret. What UCI is going to look to do as a composition is they will likely want to be looking for picks like this onto Demnus, overextended down bottom, no summoners to his name, Desecration, weaving in and out with the Spirit Rush, dropping the Ignite, and there's the last charge in, timing it perfectly so that the last dash would be all it takes for Demnus to go down. No time to respond on that shockwave whatsoever. And now UCI again, incredibly proactive on their rotations. They go from this Ahri only showing bottom and Kha'Zix being in the wings to now Kha'Zix, Karma both down there beating on the turret. Tier 2 falls down bottom. UCI 3-0 with 4,000 gold over their opponents in Simon Fraser. Now, to pop back to that point again real quick before too much more action unfolds, what UCI really wants to do is they're looking to catch Simon Fraser off guard with very fast rotation, but if they don't, then they're looking for picks in order to facilitate their sieging, and if they can't get those, then they're going to try to defend a siege, and then from there, an ideal situation I feel for them would be to look for flanks. Look for a flank with the Rumble, or rather with the Kha'Zix, with the Ahri. Use that Karma to enable that. Use the Equalizer to cut off the escapes of Simon Fraser, as they are somewhat lacking in mobility when you look at them team-wide. And the wave clear is somewhat poor for Simon Fraser as well. But right now, UCI making an interesting call. I was just talking about the calls that they need to be making, and it looks like they're just more than willing to trade this top tower for the Dragon. And that's just another Ocean Drake, so they don't really need more than the one. Just the one on its own is very, very effective. That's a lot of health and mana regen. But now there's a dive attempt looking in the mid. Simon Fraser looking to be the ones proactive this time. They're not quite going to get any kills for it, and the whole wave dies. Now they're the ones getting flanked. Desecration and Loctran are around opposite ends of this fight. Desecration in and out nice and quick, but the shockwave is dropped, and that splits this fight in two. Loctran off on the side running for his life, was even looking for a pick, but his target just died a little bit too early for him. And ultimately the fight 2-for-1 in the favor of UCI, looking to make it more. Goldjet oversteps, but he's so darn tanky. Hooks to the tower, but it's just not enough. Through that headshot, Tower of God, he wants a fish fry for dinner tonight. Cinematic. Ooh, recalling in kind of a dicey position. Yeah, decides against that in the end. But UCI, give and take there. They take away the successful engage, and then they give it right back to Simon Fraser. They walk right in. They get the flank that they want. Their rotations were so strong there. fantastic punishment on a mismatched dive, a little bit of a shaky dive decision from Simon Fraser. Now, the idea of the dive was good, but they did not do the required preparation. They did not, they jumped the gun a little bit too early, again, like we saw with that gank attempt from Frozen Knight down bottom earlier. And that clued off Tenala and Frostalicious to back away. They both get away, and they also don't have enough creeps at the turret. If they had waited for the next wave to pull that off, then you get the same result where you maybe don't get the kills, but then you have the wave that can help you take the turret. And if you have the wave that can get you the turret, then on paper that should be great. And ultimately they end up falling back. They get pincered from both rivers, actually, from Lockchain and Desecration respectively. And even with a pretty solid two-man Shockwave, I mean, UCI is just dealing damage consistently while Simon Fraser is on the back foot running away the entire duration of the, well, in quotation marks, fight, I suppose. As it was kind of Simon Fraser looking for an opening, not quite finding it, realizing they don't have the tools to work with anything, with any of the advantage that they got, and then instantly losing the advantage and having it turned on its head. But right now, in the moment, UCI looking to go top, crippling the vision of Simon Fraser on this side of the map, and that is pivotal for two reasons. For this rotation to be completely blind, now they can get this top tier 2 very comfortably, and also, it works twofold. It gets them control on the Baron as well. This top turret is no small feat for UCI to keep pushing forward, but they don't quite get it. Now Desecration caught out. Assault and Battery, huge Shockwave on the back lines as well, and the equalizer is solid, but it's simply not enough as four of the carries of UCI all fall to the wayside. 4 for 2 in the favor of Simon Fraser, and now they have the wave mid. They don't have the jungler to be able to take the Baron, so they're going for the next best thing. They're going for turrets. They want to trade 2 for 0 in this instance. They want to even this up as much as they can, and if we look at the gold, it's only 4,000 in the favor of UCI. Now, as that turret dies, it is shrinking. It is still good. It is still solid from UCI, and they can still push this forward into way more, into an insurmountable lead. But Simon Fraser, that is exactly the play that they needed to make in that fight. That was the exact sort of response they needed to have in order to completely shut that down. Because while, again, the Shockwave was so good. The Shockwave was so good, and that was due in part to Frozen Knight just getting on the backline and locking up multiple members, locking up Desecration directly with that ult, and also just displacing and setting this whole thing on its head with Loctran and Frostalicious also getting shook up by that Assault and Battery. But now Simon Fraser looking to group up around this Baron. Tower of God down bottom. He has teleport, plenty of fantastic teleport locations as well. None quite behind, but that's not really what you want to be doing on the Rumble anyway. But the next big objective on the table seems to be the Dragon. While all of the vision control is around Baron, these are the blind fights around Dragon that you have to keep your eye on to some extent, because when you have proper prep for the Baron, for team fights around there, and everybody has all the information of exactly where everyone is, or they know very roughly at the very least, like there's a minimum amount of information that you can get from a lot of wards around an objective, and that can help your fight tremendously. But with all of this focus, another Dragon's up in just 30 seconds. Tower of God backing, it's a Mountain Drake. And that's very important for either of these teams, because that can affect how they Baron dance. You can brute force a Baron significantly quicker with even just one Mountain Drake. If you get 2 Mountain Drakes, then that's the point of pushing it to be incredibly, almost trivial. And we'll have to see how that works out for either of these teams here, as Goldjet in the front lines. And I want to dip back to that fight again for a second, because I realized I didn't talk about a major component, which was Goldjet on the flank. He's just so incredibly tanky at this point. There's 4 damage dealers, but none of them have really come into their own quite yet. Oh, Loctran, biting off a bit more than he can chew there and realizing it very, very quickly. We can see sort of melting potential from Tower of God there, as that was just only the majority. That wasn't an entire Flame Spitter. That's without a Rylai's or anything, and that was all the way through the Nautilus shield. But now the dive coming through, well, not really a dive. There's not much of a turret to dive. Goldjet now all on his lonesome, just trying to distract for as long as he can. And Simon Fraser floundering around in the mid lane, trying to figure out what on earth they can do. If Loctran is caught, then that could be huge, but it just won't pan out. There's still an opportunity for the Shockwave to be huge. There's still one method of the ball delivery service. There's still a smite. They can make it a 50-50, assuming UCI even starts this Baron. They very well may not. But here they are. There's no vision for Simon Fraser until just now when they drop that blue ward. And UCI realizes the risk of the 50-50 and grouping up in that Baron pit without your Rumble ult, without your Ahri ult even. The Shockwave potential is absolutely absurd in a situation like that. You cannot afford to take that sort of risk, because when you put someone like when you put a solid jungler in a situation where they can go for a 50-50, they're going to try. Absolutely 100% of the time, Frozen Knight will try for that 50-50. Even if he doesn't get it, he's going to go for it. Automatically more pressure on Loctran. In addition, you have to be worrying about the Shockwave as well, because Demnist had a fantastic game-changing Shockwave just a few moments ago in that previous team fight. You have to respect that as well. You can't have the jungler focus on two different things and have a solid smite or a living jungler at the end of that. In addition, everybody else has to also be watching the health on the Baron to make sure that it doesn't get stolen, watch their own positioning, watch their own health bars to make sure they're not taking too much damage from the objective itself, so that they don't get one shot by the Shockwave. There's so many factors that you have to try to juggle. It can just throw off a team in an incredible amount, and so you have to be very, 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 very careful when you make that sort of call around the Baron. You don't want to throw it away, especially as UCI right now, 6,000 gold in the lead. You don't want to drop that for nothing. You don't want to drop that for the risk of a Baron that you don't really need to. You need it to finish this game, most likely, but you can be happy with just sitting here and waiting till you have a better opportunity. Simon Fraser doesn't want to give them that opportunity, though, because now they're looking to be a bit proactive, and they're just trying to muscle their way in to this mid lane here. It does work for a moment, and it... Whoa, wait, Loctran in the wrong neighborhood, but Tanala ends up getting caught out. Instead, Desecration on the backline, locked up with a beautiful bubble. The equalizers drop, but it's completely fruitless from Tower of God, and there is nothing left in the tank for UCI. Their mid laner is dead. They're all brushed to the side of the map that they don't want to be on, and they're going to get cut off here by Goldjet as well. Masterfully played from Simon Fraser in the end, and the Shockwave is still available to boot, so that's also zoning capabilities. They're going to get this mid turret. The gate is the only way that UCI is going to be able to defend this mid turret, and even then, they're just a little bit too slow. They're focused too much on poking that they might even just lose it regardless. That is not quite the case. Simon Fraser pulling back, 10 seconds left on Desecration. Simon Fraser finding an unlikely opening from a missed position from both Loctran and Tanala. Or Tianla, rather. Tianla was in a complete wrong location there, getting caught by the hook. The hook wasn't even intended for him, but still got caught out by that regardless. But now this Baron has started up again. Simon Fraser has vision, and UCI doesn't even know. They realize the risk they're taking, though. They realize the response from Simon Fraser is coming in, and they do pull off in the end. UCI, they need to pull it together here. They're sort of letting their grip slip from them a little bit here. They had a very solid grip on this game. They were looking very, very solid. They got a good gold lead pretty much just off of laning, and I mean, they took it through all the way through an even exchange. They have had good rotations to get them this lead. They've had good rotations to keep this lead. And they were the ones getting caught out a moment ago, but now Simon Fraser making a bit of a mistake as JJ push out of his own jungle while trying to control the vision. UCI doesn't have particularly good vision control now. It's kind of slipping for both of these teams here. As now Simon Fraser is the one looking to push in, get this vision down, and look for those similar types of picks that UCI was just pushing for. And this game is just incredibly back and forth. This is a game of macro, and the flow of the map is, well, all over the place. It is very much fluid, back and forth. Current's constantly shifting. 10 seconds on the dragon, though, and that is another mountain drake. Like I said before, you're really pushing, trivializing Baron with 2 mountain drakes. If this goes over to Simon Fraser, suddenly their Baron taking capabilities are greatly enhanced. Their lane pushing capabilities are very greatly enhanced. And, ooh, mistakes here again from UCI. The wave is there to cut them off. Demnus flashes, but gets nothing with the shockwave. 2 quick responses, but now this Karma card on the mid lane. Tower of God locked up as well. Desecration caught on the side. Frozen Knight about to solo him out, but back to the fight at large. Tower of God locked down after whiffing his equalizer. Finally falls. Takes a little bit longer to go down than he would have liked. Frostalicious too far forward. No flash to his name. Gets picked off. And Simon Fraser just blow this game wide open all of a sudden, picking up 3 kills. They got the vision control already. This was their rotation. The ebb and flow of this game was on their side in the moment. And now they're looking to take this Baron as well. And they're pretty much wow, I cannot get that word out. They're basically going to secure this with really no issue. Loctren really, really wants it, but he is going to get found out as well. Likely taken down. He flashes. It might not matter though. It's very close to not mattering, but it looks like it will in the end. Tanala though, temp name going down. And now this Mountain Drake trivializing Baron. Yeah, maybe so, but it doesn't matter when you already have the Baron in your back pocket anyway. Simon Fraser now. Oh man, I just saw the message in the chat about the mid laner's name for UCI. I don't know. I automatically read that as Desecration. I don't know. That is not. That's Desecrating. My bad. My bad, guys. Sorry about that. I try. I knew I was gonna get called out for that at some point. But here we are. 35 minutes into the game, very nearly. 34 and a half rather. UCI now suddenly on the back foot. That Baron picked up for Simon Fraser. They pick up that second dragon as well, and I mean the momentum has been with them really ever since that dragon for tower trade top really happened. It feels like for UCI around that time, at least that's when the dragon momentum started for them. It's completely flip-flopped now. It was 2-0 for a good amount of time at the beginning of the game, and now it's 3-2 all of a sudden in the favor of Simon Fraser. So reverse sweeping on those dragons. That is the last of the elemental drakes though. Elder next one up. Now Simon Fraser looking to push in bottom. They already got that bot tier 1 just now, equalizing the gold. We're very close to it now, pushing a little bit ahead. And they still have 2 more to take up top to even match what UCI has picked up here. But they are looking primed and ready to go to take this game further. I mean, if they really wanted to go for the siege, but they realize they don't have a fantastic siege comp. What they need is a dive. What they need is a pick in order to make that dive easier and be absolutely safe. But that Baron has got to be wearing thin. We hop over only 2/3. 2/3 of the way gone, so they still got a bit of time. This could still be a good push down the mid lane for Simon Fraser if they really want it. They got 2 cannons right now. Now the question is, who can take their earlier momentum and push it further? It's in the favor of Simon Fraser right now. But it is a big question mark about whether they can pull it back or not, or whether they can keep it going or not, whether UCI can pull it back. It looks like, speaking of pushing, Simon Fraser looking to push in the top lane. Now Goldjet backing off, picking up that Guardian Angel for himself, so having a very large amount of gold, and then just Kraden actually down in the bottom lane. Now looking for a push, but he doesn't have teleport. Goldjet finds an opening Locktran in the wrong neighborhood, and he realizes it very, very quickly. Fantastic pick from Simon Fraser, and UCI, they just seem to be tilting a little bit here. This is not a good call to have this Ahri split pushing. That's not what she's meant for. That's not what she's built for. She's going to get a turret for it, yeah, and it kind of works out, I guess. But for how long is this going to be effective for? She gets the inhib even. Like, there is absolutely no response here, thanks to the great stalling from UCI, but do they lose more on the backside of it? Tower of God caught out all alone. The bubble is whiffed, though. Mistimed by just a little bit. Less, just a part, man, just a fraction of a second there. And that makes all the difference. Now all of a sudden, SFU, they are having to play back. They have to respect this inhibitor down bottom, and that will be down through that Baron, through the next Baron spawn most likely. They just lost their buff about a minute or so ago, maybe a minute and a half now. Game pushes onwards. Minute 25 on that Elder Drake, so gotta be keeping our eyes locked there, as that will likely be the next point of contention with a good 40 seconds or so, 35, between that and the Dragon. So that is going to be the major point of contention. This Elder Drake is going to be game-changing for either one of these teams because they have so many buffs, and they have buffs that are greatly empowered by this Elder as well. The Elder, if you didn't know, takes each of the effects of your elemental buffs, and each elemental buff gives you 45 extra true damage, so it's 45 plus 45 per each elemental buff. But then it also takes that elemental buff, so in this case for UCI and for the Infernal Drake specifically is 8%, and it increases it by 50. So they will have 12% more damage, 12% additional AD and AP on top of having a good 135 true damage burn every single time they hit something. And I mean, that also stacks for the Mountain Drake as well, and this Ocean Drake sustain goes up as well. Like, there's a lot of different effects this Elder Drake will have on this game. Very, very significant for either of these teams, and now it has spawned 25 on the Baron. You can't really just trade one for the other, and Karma, temp name, going back to base here. An interesting decision. That automatically puts UCI on the back foot. Granted, Simon Fraser doesn't know that temp name has gone back, but they're going to find out pretty quickly here as UCI is playing further back than they really should be. But then again, Des Creighton is up in the top lane, split pushing once again, and actually being surprisingly effective here, but this might cost him his life. Goldjet is definitely no pushover. He's not going to take the most amount of damage from that Ahri. Red carpet laid out down bottom. Des Creighton, he's going to die here. Very, very close. No, he gets out alive, but does it really matter as UCI not able to respond on the other side? Locktran pulled out of his jump, but now the Dragon is switched and he steals it away. Frozen Knight onto the backline. The Shockwave has already been burned. And there's just nothing left here for Simon Fraser. They can't do anything further, and Creighton returns top with an immense amount of sustain. UCI is suddenly owning this map just off of better map play overall. Frostalicious on this mid turret, very close to taking it down. Frozen Knight diving forward, looking to defend his territory with Gold Jet. They don't have the damage for it, but that's the depth charge being dropped onto Tower of God, and he will go down. Temp name will also be going down as well. Demnus unstoppable on this Orianna. And it just ridiculous play from UCI. Ridiculous, crazy decision making here. It looks really, really weird, but it's working out, paying dividends for them. Goldjet reading that situation so incredibly well, now taking the fight right to UCI. They will be able to back off successfully, but this Baron has now spawned. The Elder being stolen away is huge for UCI to be able to push forward with the rest of this game. So now we reset a little bit. The gold lead is still very slightly in Simon Fraser's favor, but it's only 400 gold. And you gotta remember that any lead that you see up there is spread roughly across 5 players. So the 400 gold is completely irrelevant, but what is relevant is this Baron attempt from Simon Fraser, and they are very, very quick on this. They've got it. They've got it secured before UCI can even respond, and that's playing the back timings incredibly well. And now Simon Fraser are in a good position to be able to pull this game back. Their bot inhibitor is back. The pressure is fading from the side of UCI. This Elder Drake is still up for another minute or so, or another few seconds at the very least. But its duration is really fleeting here. They have to do something with it very quickly. And now we can see the result of that Baron, of that inhibitor respawning. Simon Fraser on the aggressive push out, looking for hooks, looking for picks once again. And now this game is completely flip-flopped once more. It's 2,000 gold in the bank for Simon Fraser. Again, spread across 5 people. When you have this much money, it doesn't really matter all that much. But, I mean, it still exists, and it still concludes their position in this game. It still reflects it pretty darn well. This push coming in, I mean, Goldjet taking trivial damage, even stepping on that trap, taking a headshot, taking poke from Creighton as well. Simon Fraser, they need to find the opening here. They have good sidewave pressure, though. They can just wait. They can just sit here. They have the duration on their buff. The Elder Drake is gone. This turret will be falling eventually. There's only so much that UCI can do to clear this wave. They can't reach that cannon without taking a pretty large risk pretty frequently. And again, the sidewave pressure is going to be absolutely crushing. Bot lane is building. Top lane is shoving in. They're not quite in sync, but I mean, you don't really need it in perfect sync. We see Tower of God flip-flopping. He's trying to decide what is the call here. He needs to clear the wave top, but he also needs to be mid for his team so he can drop that equalizer. Goldjet taking a lot of damage, but a good chunk of it is going to be healed up just as quickly. Now top lane crashing in. Goldjet backing. Has to restore some of his health and mana, and spent some of his 1,800 gold, 3,000 in the pocket for Pneumatic, but we don't see him looking to back anytime soon. He has his next item pretty much guaranteed. Goldjet actually teleporting in. It's a little bit disjointed here for Simon Fraser, but they're able to brute force it. Locktran blown up on the side, guaranteed. No, he actually survives, and Creighton comes around the back, trying to make a pick happen, but it's just impossible at this point. A great equalizer to split this fight in half. There's so much damage coming through, but nobody can finish it off. Locktran now stepping too far forward again, getting blown up. Frozen Knight walks it off. Now these towers under fire in just a moment here. Simon Fraser, through thick and thin, they are able to maintain their lead thanks to a fantastic Baron rush. It was a set of weird-looking decisions from UCI, like I said, with their split-pushing Ahri. It worked. It paid off so incredibly well for them. But ultimately, they And they get the dragon. It was such a great play around the dragon as well. They forced a 4v4. They lost the trade top. They should have lost. They lost position on the dragon bottom. But they're able to converge and they get that top tower. They get the dragon away. They look like they're in a great spot, but then awkward back timings, lack of vision control. They didn't stagger their recalls well enough. They got greedy. And SFU, they see the opening, they seize the opening, and I mean, that just catapulted them to a great victory. And there were positioning issues. There were a lot of positioning issues. If we look at the score lines, not super impressive from Temp Name, not super impressive from Des Creighton or Locktran. There is a lot of work that UCI needs to do as an entire unit, and they did do that pretty well communication-wise, but individually, it seems like they just kind of didn't show up. But with that all said, that is just game 1 in this series. It is best of 3, so we have at least one more left before SFU takes this series as a whole. Maybe even 2 more if UCI can bite back in game 2, but we'll go to a quick commercial break, and we will be back right after this with game number 2 between UCI and Simon Fraser University.
Only $14.99.
Don't miss the call. Download Band. Communication made easy.